Hi, my name is Joe Yarshin, and thank you for tuning in to Kick in the Rear podcast. The real estate investment review, the goal of this podcast is to review books related to real estate, business, and entrepreneurship to help you with your real estate journey. Hope you enjoyed today's episode. Welcome in to Kick in the Rear podcast, episode 27, part 1. My name is Joe Yarshin, and today we're going to be reviewing Tools of Titans. The tactics, routines, and habits of billionaires, icons, and world-class performers by Mr. Tim Ferriss. I have reviewed one of Tim Ferriss' books previously on the podcast called The 4-Hour Workweek. He also is the author of The 4-Hour Body, so I might do that book as well down the road. But without further ado, let's get into it. Right away, Tim Ferriss explains how to read this book because it's kind of a little different style than a lot of other books out there. And I would characterize this book as a business book and a mindset book. However, it can help you in all areas of business, real estate, and real estate investing especially. And really, all of the people in this book that are featured, he interviews them in a way that shares a lot of their best practices, habits, and things that separate them from other people in their industries and what makes them successful. So specifically, he, at the beginning of the book, kind of breaks down how to read this book and how to use it as a tool. And also, he explains that there's a lot of characteristics that all of these people have in common. So I'll touch on some of these components first. So a lot of the people that have successful things in common, he states here that more than 80% of the interviewees have some form of a daily mindfulness or meditation practice. So I thought that was interesting right off the bat to notate. He said a surprising number of males, not females, over 45 eat breakfast or eat only the scantiest of fare. He says that many people have reviewed books, Sapiens, Poor Charlie's Almanac, Influence, and Man's Search for Meaning. He says that the habit of listening to single songs on repeat for focus, a lot of them do that. I know that in my previous book, I reviewed David Goggins. I know David Goggins himself does that as well with the Rocky theme when he was doing his pull-up contest. He said that nearly everyone has done some form of spec work, completing projects on their own time and dime, and then submitting them to prospective buyers. He says a lot of them have in common the belief that failure is not durable. Almost every guest has been able to take obvious weaknesses and turn them into huge competitive advantages. So I'll skip around here just some of the memorable ones I saw because there's so many in here. This is a very long book. It's about 700 pages or so. And that's why I've broken this book review into two parts, just because it's taken me a while to read it and also just so much to cover. So I'm gonna go through here and just go through a few. So the first section of people is all about people he interviewed about health and health related things. So I took a lot of out of this section. The first one he interviews is Amelia Boone. So a lot of great takeaways in that one about sauna usage. All the health benefits of that is throughout the book, but he talks about some of the different foods that they eat and, again, morning routines. Let's see. Christopher Summer, diet and exercise, flexibility versus mobility, consistency over intensity, morning routines and working on your weaknesses. Everyone should practice 3 movements according to him. So there's 3 different ones there. Gymnast workouts are located on page 15, which I thought was kind of cool. Let's see here. So one of on page 21, Dominic D'Agostino talks about ketosis and supplemental ketones, the ketogenic diet. So I'm familiar with that. I've been on a ketogenic diet before, so I took a lot of takeaways from that section. And again, this helps you with your overall wellness. So I think, You can skip a lot of these sections if you're not into the health section as much, or if you think you got your health down, but I still think it's good to help. Talks about fasting, cancer treatment, supplementing. A lot of really awesome stuff here if you're like diabetic or, you have blood sugar issues. He reviews that. Patrick Arnold was the next one. Talks about, again, metformin and life extension, which I thought was very interesting. Let's see. There's a lot of people. So many. I kind of just have to skip over several of them. Rick Rubin's barrel sauna. So he talks about that. Jason Niemer, co-founder of Acro Yoga, Spiritual Wisdom of Yoga. Some cool takeaways there. Acro Yoga, Tie and Fly. So on page 54, 55, and 56 goes over some of those partner yoga exercises. Deconstructing sports and skills with questions. Peter Attia. Let's see. So there's a huge benefit in, getting blood work done and testing your blood for various tests, and he kind of reviews that in detail. On page 74, Charles Poliquin. Important thing he learned about nutrition is you need to deserve your carbs. So he talks about being sub 10% body fat. So he talks about various athletes that, he has on 70% carbs, 20% protein, 10% fat. But for the vast majority of people, it's, more protein and fat than carbs. Some interesting tips on like if you have loose skin, stretch marks, or supplementing tips on like magnesium, on good doctors and recommendations for doctors. Talks about different squats, activating your hamstrings, things like that. On page 81, the slow carb diet cheat sheet. On 83, 6-piece gym in a bag. So it talks about some steps you can take there. There's another guy named Pavel. What's his last name? Pavel Tsatsouline. So chairman of Strong First Incorporated, Worldwide School of Strength. He has helped he was a training instructor for Spetsnaz, Soviet Special Forces, and expert helping out the U.S. Marine Corps, Secret Service, U.S. Navy SEALs. So he talks about kettlebell workouts and all these cool lifts you can do and intensities to basically simplify your workouts, but to get the most out of them. He was saying like anything over 6 reps is bodybuilding. So I thought that was interesting. Let's see. We have James Fadiman. In this section, he talks about psychedelics and recreational, as well as like mind expansive supplements and drugs that people take to like have breakthroughs. Just a lot of like weird information, but like very interesting nonetheless. And several of these people he goes through talk about their experiences with DMT and, some of these other, newsworthy substances like ayahuasca, again, DMT. And then I thought this was actually one of the most interesting parts of the book, just like how a lot of artists and things use these supplements to like expand their creativity, and some engineers use it to solve complex problems they get stuck on. So there's various breathing techniques as well in the yoga, in the meditation sections. Talk about like different ways to overcome jet lag. Again, more keto tips. This is from Triple H, the wrestler in WWE. So I thought that was a cool section from him. Jane McGonigal, Adam Gazzaley. 5 tools for better and faster sleep. So decompressing the spine. He talks about this thing called a chili pad. It lowers the temperature of your bed. Honey apple cider vinegar. before bedtime with tea, and then getting your room dark, all kinds of cool tidbits there on sleep and better sleep. 5 morning rituals that help him win the day. So making your bed, meditate, doing little exercise, 5 to 10 reps, tea, drinking again, and then journaling he does for 5 minutes. So Mind Training 101, page 150. And then 3 tips from a Google pioneer. He talks about Shade Meng Tan and Google pioneer, it says, award-winning engineer, best-selling author. So some of the best habits are there on page 156, 157, 158, and 159. Coach Summer, Single Decision on page 161. That concludes like the health section. So in section 2, it's more about wealth, and it's called Wealthy. There's a quote here by James Cameron. If you set your goals ridiculously high and it's a failure, you will fail above everyone else's successes. If Colonel David Hackworth says, if you find yourself in a fair fight, you didn't plan your mission properly. And then not my circus, not my monkeys, Polish proverb. So talks about Chris Sacca there, Mark Andreessen, a lot of successful people like Arnold Schwarzenegger and kind of their journey. Quote from him was, I wasn't there to compete. I was there to win. He says that I'm a big believer that if you have a very clear vision of where you want to go, then the rest of it is much easier. Again, I wasn't there to compete. I was there to win. So a lot of cool information I didn't know about him on Arnold. Derek Sivers. Let's see. Lexus Ohanian. She has some quotes there about basically caring and approach. Productivity tricks for neurotic, manic, depressive, crazy like him, he says. So he talks about myths of successful people, reality checks, your purpose, your drive. A few quotes here. When you can write well, you can think well. Everyone is interesting. If you're ever bored in a conversation, the problem's with you, not the other person. So then Nicholas McCarthy talks about playing the long game. Tony Robbins. This is a really good section. I like Tony Robbins a lot. So it talks about the different seminars he has and the different books he's written and some of the events he does. So State Story Strategy on page 212, morning priming instead of meditation. So he does a cold water plunge in the morning. Thought that was kind of cool. A lot of people talk about that. And I think I'll wrap up with that. So in part 2, we'll talk about kind of some of the rest of the entrepreneurs that I thought were noteworthy. But overall, I would say there was countless amount of takeaways I've had and things I've already implemented in my daily routines. Tying back to a previous book that I did was Atomic Habits. I found a lot of similar attributes of that book in some of these entrepreneurs that are in the Tool of Titans book. So looking forward to doing part 2, Bippity Boppity Investment Property. See you